Okay, so I just remembered something else. Well, actually, not just, I've actually repeated this already. Since 2015, when an organisation went out and was trying to rally or gather information, I had people contact me and saying that they knew me. So it's been wrongly identified, and how they knew or how they come to the conclusion they knew me was a series of connections towards me. Musical societies, school, art teacher, drama teacher, things like this. Or just like basically affiliating me with my mother or my mother's family. So let me go on to the one that was always repeated, Shane Childs. So my mother's deadbeat sister, Robin Childs, who's just an absolute loser of a drunk. She's an idiot. So Robin Childs, her children were just dragged up low-life scumbags. So Shane and Christy Childs is from her first marriage. They're born in the country. She was with a guy called Reg Childs in some country area of Bathurst. That's where Shane Childs is born. That's where he spent all of his life. So he's always run off there. He's involved in shooting, hunting, things like this. Always driven a ute. Just a very weird guy. So he's my cousin, but I found him to be very creepy. Growing up, very, very creepy. He was always running around flopping his dick out as well. It was just weird. No, I mean not like there's boisterous, like he was like, there's boisterous ways of doing that. So don't get me wrong. Like there's a larrikin way, and then there's the Shane Childs way. That's just creepy. I had women come up to me. So since I was lied about in 2015, this happened in 2017, happened in 2018, also happened when I was in America living. And I've actually had some social workers come up and approach me saying that they believed I was the character of a person. So they're like, so when I explained who I was, and they're like, no, I imagine you to be somebody that would be involved in wildlife and camping and nature, and that you would always be around wildlife areas and so forth, and idolized your mum's brother, which is Denny Purdy. Now, I'll pin that for a sec, and I'll just tell you, my side of the family never grew up with Denny Purdy, my mum's brother. Nothing in common. I mean, here we are, like I'm an artistic guy going to art galleries and theatres. And my mother wasn't close to her brother. But her sister Robin Childs was. And Denny actually lived with Robin Childs. And her children, Shane and Christy Childs, grew up with him. And Shane actually idolised him growing up. They used to go camping together. They used to go camping together. They used to go hunting together. They used to go shooting together. They did everything together. Unpin that. Let's get back to the story. So then these ladies were saying, things like this. They imagined me to be someone that goes pig hunting and shooting and collected reptiles and snakes and had reptiles and snakes in fish tanks. This is all actually relates to Shane Childs. That I would walk around with a snake on one shoulder and a lizard on the other shoulder. Again, this was Shane Childs. My cousin used to do this. It was very creepy. He had snakes everywhere. He actually got a growth from collecting reptiles. He was involved in Feverdale. He was involved, like a lot of Aboriginal people knew him from the sub. Like he was just, he was involved in anything to do with nature, hunting, the outdoors, country. So this was that situation. However, these women were not alone, because I actually had some gay guy, farmer, contact me through social media saying that he knew me, but I used to be blonde, and he had lighter hair. He remembers me from riding at rodeos, and I always had girlfriends, because he goes, when did I come out? Since when have you been gay? I'm like, I came out in 1992. Everyone knows I'm gay. He goes, no, I remember you at rodeos. You had girlfriends. I'm like, no, I'd never ridden at a rodeo, and I've never had girlfriends. So they were describing Shane Childs, and I was wondering how this happened, and it's all got to do with social media and just drawing connections and drawing conclusions. So photos of myself with Shane Childs' sister, Christy Childs, of me affiliating with her, drew back to where people thought I was her brother. And he was a loner. I mean, I've become a bit of a loner now, but that's only because in the last 9 years, this has gone on, and I didn't want anyone who knew me to get involved. So I had to cut people out of my life to go, look, we're done. you don't know that much about me anyway. I'm getting these issues caused. Until things move forward legally, I can't socialize with you. So you've got to understand that this has happened, that I have been wrongly identified as a nature of certain people. It's causing me damage. I've asked for a solicitor since 2016. I actually turned to my mother and my family, and I was like, oh, this is a scam or a scheme, because my mother and her sisters are always up to something. I'm not close to them. So I thought, right. Oh, anyway, let's leave that alone for a sec, because basically it is a matter for a solicitor to listen to me and go forth and proceed with criminal charges against people that need to be charged. Whether it's my mother, her sisters, my sister, whatever. So let's put that aside. Anyway, and then there was affiliating me with schools I never went to. So I never went to Tamworth High, never even been to the place. Oxley High was another one, somebody there as well. So there was a lot to do with Shane Childs, where people actually had given descriptions of a person and their nature. And I do remember at Manila once. So we're from Sydney, but my mother did move, and she lives around her sisters, where they all moved from Sydney to an area they live. They're just deadbeats of people. If anyone ever comes up to me and says, oh, I'm a friend of your mother or your sisters, it's like, I wouldn't come up to me because I press charges. I'm not close to any of them. They're just completely different nature to what my grandparents were. And I was raised by my grandparents. So anyway, I can tell you this. So Shane Childs is a massive big cannabis smoker and drug user. I was told Sally, the lady who he had he had children with, or he might have been engaged or something. Look, I really don't know him, but I know that Sally was addicted to crystal meth, which then would mean Shane Childs was as well. Shane Childs' girlfriend after Sally was this ex-wife of a Rebels bikie gang member, or bikie gang member of Tamworth, and her husband sold crystal meth. So I can only assume that Shane Childs met his next girlfriend through his drug dealer. I know that growing up, Shane Childs used to hang around with a guy called Tribe. They used to call him, I think they called him Casey Tribe. He's a drug dealer. He lived next door to Nicolette Jones. I know this because my mother's second husband, Mark Rackley, and his son from his first marriage, Daniel Rackley, used to buy drugs. There was all these arguments all the time. I used to hear it because my mother's second husband was caught out again about his alcoholism and his drug use and his son's drug use. And this guy lived virtually across the road from some Freemason nursing home called Moonby House. And he was a drug dealer, and he lived next door to Nicolette Jones. There was a rumour that he knocked up Nicolette Jones, so then she ran off to Picton or some crap. I don't know. Like, these people are just really weird. My mother and her sisters seem to be all connected with that, and I'd like to distance myself from my mother and her sisters and their children. And I've done this my entire life because of their nature. So once my father, Mark Flemming, who's beautiful, once he divorced my mother, and then my mother got in with the wrong crowd, which is almost like the crowd that her sister, Robin Childs, is with, I've distanced myself since. So you can say since a young kid. And their parents distanced themselves as well. Reg and Lola actually did distance themselves from their daughters, especially from my mother when she got with her second husband, Mark Rackley. They did. And I was close to my grandparents. Anyway, so this all went on. So Shane Childs, Sally, he had children with, was addicted to crystal meth. But I remember a time Shane Childs lived not far from Robert Street shopping village, and he got done for cannabis. He was arrested for cannabis. In that same time, I don't know if it was Tamworth caught that at the front, but in that time, his mother was done by a sniffer dog at Armadale Markets for having drugs. That's Robin Childs. His sister, so Robin Childs' daughter, his sister, Christy Childs, was done for home invasion and assault. Yeah, nice family. That's Robin Childs' children. So this is Lois. So they're all in court at the same time. I don't think there was any charges. This is back in the 90s. Shane got done for cannabis and drugs and so forth. He was living in some drug-filled house in near Robert Street. I don't know what the area is called. I was back home living in Sydney then. But yes, he was just some loser that was always with drug people. So that's my mother's sister, Robin Childs' son. And he drove a ute. So I actually had that. People saying, "Oh, I know him. He was like this." I'm like, "But no, you've just described Shane Childs." Exactly. And as for my complexion, my hair has always been dark brown, near black. You can see my pubes where you can see the grey coming through now. I'm black haired. I'm naturally black haired. I used to put foils through my hair to break it up. I was only ever a blonde baby. So, yes, I was a blonde toddler. But by the age of 4, my hair was black. You can see it growing out where like my roots were all black, and then you can see my baby hair, my toddler hair. I was losing it and getting my natural hair, and I'm near black. Always have been. So there was that. Then, of course, I just described Daniel Rackley, my ex-stepbrother, because his father and my mother were divorced. Daniel Rackley's from Mark Jeffrey Rackley's first marriage. He lived in Tamworth as well. So we're not from there. My mother moved there with her second husband. So it's majority of my mother's second husband's nature that's right through there. So the Rackleys were involved in it. I then had the Rackleys. So when people like with all this crap, and remember, I've just gone through immigration and got a green card to America, and I'm having criminal behaviour projected into my life from actual government departments such as New South Wales Police. And it's caused me 9 years of damage. And this is where I'm like to my family, don't bother, because I stated this back in 2016 and again in 2017. Especially in 2016, 2017, when Daniel Rackley had posts where he was depressed and suicidal. And all this is to do with people stalking social media. And I've actually kept those Facebook posts. I've actually screenshot them from Daniel Rackley's Facebook. And so forth. We're the exact same age, and I don't think we look alike, except now I've got him really fat. In the last 9 years, I've never been fat. I've always, the heaviest I've ever been in my life, around 69 kilos. And that's with muscle. Now that I've got him really fat, it's like you could confuse us with the same age. But I would never say I look like him. He was ugly and fat. He looks like a Rackley. Anyway. I don't mean that to be nasty, but that is. So that was that. So look, yes, that was Daniel Rackley. That was Shane Childs. However, from my high school, LA the Rosewood College, I actually had a description where people were like, oh, he was this lone, he used to get bullied. He was involved in cadets. So I actually had people that thought I was the guy that actually used to wear, it was like army pants to school. That was Justin PASCO. And how this came about was myself and Justin PASCO was in the same musical, which actually we might have been in 2 similar musicals. He was in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. So was I. Justin PASCO is a year or 2 older than me. So I literally have people from the Tamworth area and LA, the Rosewood College go, I remember you and your brother went to your school. And because they then latched on the fact that I had a stepbrother, I'm like, no, I never had a brother at my school. Yeah, you did. Yes, you had an older brother. And you were blonde. Like they described Justin PASCO. I was like, no. And you're always talking about cadets and you're involved in the army. I was like, no. But I knew exactly what they were talking about. And here's the thing. It wasn't just other people who went to that school. It was school teachers. I think he started that school. So he's actually from the Tamworth area. I don't remember this so clearly because in 2016 I thought this is really weird. This is Justin PASCO because I remember he was inviting everybody at school to a pizza party. So he was having a birthday party or pizza party that was done in 1992, I think it was. I just started at school. So I remember this as well. He was, going around to everybody with some pizza party where it was, that's what he wanted, this big pizza party dream of his. And he was from like his low life housing sort of family. And so these descriptions were actually done. And I had people, and even this is where I'm like, my own twin sister who bullshits, like, she's like, I used to love pizza. I'm like, they're describing Justin PASCO. I remember this birthday party. I mean, I got invited to it. I didn't go. I remember the birthday party. His birthday party. I know exactly the person these people are describing. He used to get bullied bad at school. He used to get called a faggot and he had mousy, brown hair. I mean, I never bullied him. I did, like, my peers I never saw anyone my peers put with him, but he did. He used to stink. He had bad hygiene. He was just like from this rural low-life family. He was involved in army cadets. He was in, he used to walk around at school. We went to a private school, Lady Rosary College, which had a uniform, and he used to wear his army cadets uniform to school with all his badges and stuff. And he was just a real weird guy. However, the teachers that I had were the part of this as well, because he was in the same drama. So even though his drama teacher was Miss Newbury. I think he was in art as well. He would have had duty ball for art, but he was older than me. We weren't in the same class ever, because when I was in year 7, he was in year 8 or year 9. But I remember him. I remember his brother, because it was so, like everybody else is wearing a uniform, like a proper LA Rosary College uniform, socks pulled up, dress shoes, and he's wearing big army boots and cadet clothes, like camouflage clears to work. Like he's full cadet, so he used to walk around. So it stuck out. Like, you know, if you go to a school that has a uniform, you've all got uniform. You've got your shirt, you've got your tie, and so forth. And the next minute, this guy's walking in an army uniform. He was just weird. That I had people that actually come to me since 2015 describing Justin Pascoe. Now, my mother's so insane and, you know, obsessed for attention. And that's what my mother and her sisters are, that I told them I got wrongly identified. And instead of them turning around going, oh, hang on, they actually lapped up the attention going, oh, yes, because we never had anything. It's like, they're not talking about me. These people, and even my own twin sister, who's exactly like my mother, it's like, oh, my God, well, you do like making up stories for attention, don't you, Amanda? She was one of them as well, with the crap that was going on. I'm like, oh, my God. There, I've just described 3 people. This is where I'm really furious in the last 9 years. It's like, well, this is so easy to tell. Like, if you just stop and listen to the descriptions of people, knowing that, you know, especially knowing these people. Oh, the other thing was Justin Pascoe sung, and now this is the thing, he sung Phantom of the Opera in the school assembly. So Rosary College students actually projected Justin Pascoe, not just in Australia, into US as well. He sung the Phantom of the Opera at school. I remember this because I actually had people from older classes come and go, oh, Justin, to me, I heard you sung Phantom of the Opera, great. I'm like, no. Because I was in musicals, it's like, no. And I was at that school assembly. That was Justin Pascoe. Wow. Yeah, so this actually did happen in the last, now 9 years. We're almost 10 years now. We're almost 10 years where I have been wrongly identified. The descriptions of other people have now been attached to me, to a level of government department level. Then, lastly, now I never went to Oxley High. And see, I've been openly gay. And I never had any trouble. I wasn't bullied for being gay at school. All my peers were fine with it. I just came up, if they knew what that was even, I was like, oh, like seeing people running around with girlfriends, like, oh, look, I'm gay. I know. I've been gay my entire life. So 1992 I came out. And I had a good social life. Like every Wednesday I used to go and meet with friends in the coffee bean, have coffee and chat and so forth. Anyway, the other one was Darren Taylor. And see, the big giveaway was people that were born or had lived in Tamworth before my mother or my family ever heard of the place. So they've had families from Tamworth. They lived there, they're born there, and they're raised there. And that was the other big giveaway, because they were describing a timeline that didn't exist to me, because they're describing a timeline where, like, when people are like, oh, when he was 8. I'm like, you never knew me until after I was 10. Oh, yes, we did. I love the argument for country people. They're like, oh, yes, we did. I knew you when you were 7. I'm like, that's insane and impossible. Because at 7 years of age, I was going to under 18s discos at the Rudy Hill RSL. Where were you? You were in Tamworth? I was going to St. Aidan's primary school at Rudy Hill in Sydney. You didn't know me. And these are people who are from the country who were dead set determined that that's me. It's like, but doesn't meet the timeline. And here's the timeline. My mother moved to Tamworth from Sydney in April 1989. Okay, April 1989. So the week of my 10th birthday. There's your timeline. Nobody in my family ever heard of Tamworth before my mother went there for a holiday in 1989. So lastly, let's get back to Darren Taylor. So some Aboriginal Beth Rowling used to date him. Oh, look, it was around everywhere. So Darren Taylor was in the same musicals as me as well. He was with the Musical Society and the Entertainment Society. He did Les Miserables, but then he also did Pirates of Penzance that I was in. Okay. During that period of time, like Darren Taylor had long blonde hair. There was a rumor that went around that he... Oh, look, these are just rumors. I don't think it was any true. Like, you know, people like big note themselves. So Darren and Beth Rowling's brother, Jess Rowling, were walking around going, oh, we painted our faces and held up the BP petrol station. I kid you not. Like, do you know, kids being dickheads, and that's what they were saying. Oh, we held up, but they were just making up shit, like that they held up schools and things. I just trying, but they were just being, they were very, how do you call it, street kids. So that was Beth Rowling's brother, Jess Rowling, or Blackmore. I think that was the name Blackmore as well. I think Jess was Blackmore, and Darren Taylor. And Darren Taylor used to be with Beth. You know, she, there was a lot of stuff that was going around. Like, you know, an idle teenage gossip. So, you know, you sort of remember when someone brings it up again, it's like, yeah, I do remember when Beth was talking about her sexual experiences with Darren Taylor. Yeah, I do. I think everybody does. You know, teenage crap. So, yeah, Darren Taylor used to live with his grandfather. And that's the other thing. So it was like, yes, because you lived with your grandparents. I'm like, yeah, in Sydney. That's right. Because they go, no, in Tamworth, because they're from Tamworth. I'm like, yeah, I remember when you lived with your grandfather. I'm like, my grandfather had never been to Tamworth. And I was just like, and then there was this thing about going to Oxley High. I was like, I've never been to Oxley High. I only go to Oxley High. And they're talking about a blonde. And you're talking about, it's like, okay, if I went to the same musical. And then it's just like every time people would jump on the thing, I was being straight. I'm like, oh, to me, Darren Taylor, he used to go with Beth Rowling or Beth Blackmore. You know, he was really good friends with this Aboriginal family and Jess Blackmore, Jess Rowling. Oh, God, you're talking about Darren Taylor. So there's four people that got projected into my life since I was lied about in 2015, and all this to do with social media, wrongly identifying stories. And I'm sitting back going, yeah, I can identify exactly what you're talking about. And they're like, oh yeah, you. I'm like, no. And here's how your story has flaws in it. Because not from Tamworth. Wasn't even living there at the time when this went on. Didn't have blonde hair. You made me older than what I am. You've made my family from an area that they're not from. You know, also you've said I had a brother that went to my high school. You, like, for all these people, you had me going to army cadets. Like everything, like all these stories that people were saying, oh yes, that's him. In the last 9 years, where I'm getting identified. This went to the US as well. So this is almost like a government thing, an immigration thing. And I'm sitting there back going, there's flaws, there's holes in all these stories. And I can tell you why. But then my mother, with her attention, going, oh yes, that was him. Yeah. So this has made it harder for me in the last 9 years. It's like, even my twin sister, like, oh, I used to like pizza. I'm like, I hate pizza. It's empty carbs. I'm like, and yeah, if you guys were having Chinese, I'm like, oh, I'll just get a pizza. You know, it was like, what, MSG or carbs type thing. And she goes, yeah, so you did just eat pizza growing up? I'm like, yeah, but the guy that had the pizza party, you're talking about Justin PASCO. And I'm not that lover of pizza. It's just fucking bread. Seriously. So there was that, like things like this. So I'm looking at even my own twin sister going, oh, fuck, you grew up to be like you bullshit storyteller like Carol and her sisters. I'm done with y'all. Like, that's what, man, so they're just attention-seeking women. It's like, here I am trying to tell people, I know you've got wrong information, but I know who you described. And then my mum's there with her fake tears. Oh, yes. It's like, oh, you're an idiot. They're talking, so when people were actually talking about Justin PASCO, who was this, like, he was used to get bullied. He looked terrible. Like, he used to come to school, he had like so scraggly hair, he stunk. Like I said, he would come to school, he didn't have the uniform at times, like, because they were so poor. His family was so poor, they used to wear his cadet clothes. And then, so they're talking about Justin Pascoe, then my mum's jumped onto this, going, oh yes, because we didn't have anything. I'm like, oh, Carol, shut up, because they're actually not talking about our family, you idiot. But I'm just looking at mum going, oh God. This is where I stop believing anything out of my mother's mouth or my mother's sister's mouth or my own twin sister's mouth, because I'm there going, this is really simple. When people actually just describe somebody completely different, you've jumped on to get attention from some bullshit story that's not even related to us. I'm looking at my mother going, oh, get fucked. You lowlife. Like, seriously, like, you are so starved for attention that you just use somebody else's misfortunate upbringing. Like, this guy used to get bullied and you know, beat at school. He was just, yeah, but he was a weirdo. Like, he did used to wear all his army cadet stuff to school. Yeah, he did sing. I remember when he sang Phantom of the Opera at the school assembly, he had mousy brown hair. He was just dragged up, very poor povo family that didn't have anything. And so at times, I guess he couldn't even wear the uniform that we had to wear. Now, we always had beautiful, like, we had the uniform and so forth. Then my mother's jumped on this to try to, you know, make, oh, because we're just working class. And I'm like, Carol, they're not talking, like, I've had people from, like, since 2015, I was like, they're not talking about me. And so then my mother's jumped on this to make it out. I was like, oh, wow. Oh, my God, you really are. You have issues. The women, my mother's sisters, Mary Mihowski, Robin Charles, my mother, and I look at my sisters that are related to my mother, because I've got other sisters as well on my dad's side. And I'm looking at this going, you women have massive, huge issues. You really should get help for your issues. I hope you heal. So there was 4 people, their behaviour, their description. This was projected into my life, and it was something very simple to turn around and correct. And it wasn't for 9 years. We're almost at 10 years.